I'm so excited for this first episode. I can't wait. I've been anticipating it since our last conversation.
I know. So that's me, Heather Schneider, and my friend Jenn Haugen. After months of prep work, we are finally ready to sit down to record our very first episode for the brand new show, the CommonGround North Dakota Podcast. Jenn and I make our living off of, well, food. I've been a professional chef for 10 years, and Jenn is a registered dietitian. We both live and work in the great state of North Dakota. We've all heard the saying farm to table, but what if the conversation was table to farm? Thinking first about the food on our plates, tracing it back to the source is a fascinating journey. Jenn and I sit down with ag experts to dig in and find out more about the production and agriculture in North Dakota. Agriculture has a $30.8 billion annual impact on North Dakota's economy. That's some big bucks. So let's be good neighbors and more informed consumers by gaining a better understanding of our state's economy and the modern agriculture that drives it. In other words, let's have some fun and dig into how North Dakota's agriculture impacts the globe.
Yeah. So corn's used in so many different ways. Corn oil, corn syrup, candy, corn flakes. And then there's less known ones as well. So like tires, plastic. So like those biodegradable silverware that's made from corn, a typical diaper, toothpaste, crayons, makeup, lipstick. Yeah. So there are like 4,000 items. I couldn't even begin to name them all.
Okay, corn is in everything. Well, that's not quite true, but it's in a lot of stuff. Corn is such a major player in our slice of America that one of our nicknames is the Corn Belt, at least in the ag world. And we're wondering why and how corn became one of our top crops. So we sat down for a conversation with Heidie Haugo from the Corn Council to discuss what exactly makes corn king. So we're talking about corn today.
Yes.
Which I don't know a ton about corn. You know, because there's two types of corn, right?
I think there's more.
There's more than that?
I think.
Okay.
I don't know for sure. But
Well,
like, good thing Heidi's here.
Heidi's here and she'll tell us.
What a relief. We have an expert to answer all of our questions about corn, right? So Heidi, welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming.
Tell us a little bit about yourself and like what your involvement is with North Dakota agriculture and specifically corn.
Yeah, so my name is Heidie Haugo, and I actually grew up on a farm. So I grew up in southern Minnesota on a hog and crop farm where we raised corn and soybeans.
Wow.
And my parents are still farming. They're still raising hogs down there. And I studied agricultural education actually at the University of Minnesota. So I wanted to be in agriculture. And when I graduated, I had an opportunity to work for the Minnesota Corn Growers Association. So I was out for a couple years working with farmers directly in central Minnesota, west central Minnesota. Before I came to the North Dakota Corn Council, which is headquartered in Fargo. So I live now in Fargo, North Dakota. I'm working with corn farmers for corn farmers, and I am living there with my husband in Fargo, and his family actually also farms. So,
oh, wow. So all around.
Yeah. So he grew up on a farm. They do not have any livestock, but they're raising corn, soybeans, and actually dry edible beans and sugar beets and wheat. So I've had the opportunity to learn a little bit about those crops as well, which was new to me, and that's exciting. But yeah, still very involved with farming, still active.
You know
in
it
that
all.
Space.
You know, but you specialize in corn. And how long have you been with the Corn Council?
Yeah, so I've been with the North Dakota Corn Council a little over 4 years already.
Okay.
So yeah, time really flies.
And what type of work do you do there? So what's your typical day like?
Yeah, I'm the communications director for the Corn Council. So a typical day is managing all of our communications, social media, radio, if anybody is doing TV, that kind of stuff. There are 2 employees at the council, so myself and our executive director, Jean Henning. So we're a little bit, jack of all trades. Whatever comes up that day, we have to be on board to take care of that. So do a little bit of the financial stuff. We do a little bit. I do a little bit of the development and planning. Our mission at the Corn Council is to help to build a profitable business climate for the northern corn industry. So we work specifically in research, education, promotion, and market development for the corn industry in North Dakota.
Wow. So she's the perfect guest for us. Because I feel like, Heidi, you have a unique perspective growing up in the agriculture community, raising livestock, and then like with your background in education. So that's perfect because we need some education. So we have a lot of questions, I think, just about corn in general. So
teach us, Heidi.
Yeah. Do you mind if we just jump right in and like start asking some questions, and you can provide us with the answers that I feel like some of our listeners would have as well.
Right.
So we talked about in our intro
different types of corn.
Yeah. So
how many different types are there?
So we talk about 3 different types of corn.
Three types. Okay.
So tell us about those. Like, what are the different types? Because we think of corn, you think of maybe just the corn that you eat, right? Like canned corn, frozen corn, corn on the cob, like in the fall in North Dakota. I know that's really popular. So is that kind of what we grow here, or what is mainly what we see out in the fields when we're driving down I-29?
Yeah, so all of those things that you talked about, canned corn, frozen corn, corn on the cob, they're all sweet corn. And I brought some props for you guys.
So awesome.
For our listeners, we have some props. And this is sweet corn that we're looking at now.
Looks familiar.
Sweet corn, typically, when you look at it, it's bicolor. So you get like that. You know, some varieties are called peaches and cream, things like that. You have white and yellow kernels.
Little specks of white in there.
And this is always eaten fresh, right? It's juicy. It's really moist corn.
Yeah.
And that's what's harvested in the summer. They're harvested when the stalks are green. But sweet corn is really only 1% of all the corn grown in the entire United States.
Wow.
So 99% is other varieties.
99% is other varieties.
Wild.
And that's true for North Dakota as well. So if you guys want to take a look at that one closer,
let's look at that.
I'll hand it around.
And why are the kernels different colors? Like, why is there some white and some yellow?
Yeah, and I mean, I honestly don't know the reason for that. It's just some varieties are all yellow of sweet corn. It would just be a variety thing. So sweet corn has a nice high sugar content. It tastes really great right off the cob, even if it's not cooked. You know, it still tastes good.
It is good raw.
It is.
And interestingly enough, in the midst of the summer, it is more difficult to tell sweet corn and field corn apart because field corn is also nice and plump and juicy like that.
Okay.
But if you taste it, it's not going to be as sweet. It's going to have a higher starch content.
Something you wouldn't want to eat.
Yeah. And another way to tell, if you actually take the kernels off the cob, the cob of sweet corn is usually white. And with field corn, it's red. So
really?
That's
really interesting.
Pretty though. I like that.
Yeah,
it's color coordinated.
So is sweet corn the one I'm popping for popcorn?
No. So another variety of corn
There's more.
is popcorn, and this is what it looks like.
It's cute.
Again,
it's
I have a little prop. Yeah, and this one, you know, you don't often see it when it's on the cob, but of course, popcorn grows on a cob as well. And this has got that really hard shell.
Okay.
And when you warm that up, that inside pops inside out, and then that's what you're eating.
So is this grown in North Dakota at all?
There is a little bit. It will probably be like hobby farms.
Sure.
I would say most of the popcorn in the United States is grown in states like Illinois, you know, or more like East Coast states as well.
They're teeny little kernels.
It
looks like,
small.
you know, just like you'd see like, this one looks a little smaller than you'd see in like the jar where you buy popcorn. Cause I know I love to air pop popcorn.
I love
my kids like just love it.
And popcorn's good for us, right?
It's like, a very healthy snack.
Yes.
It's high in fiber, right?
Yeah,
and
great whole grain.
Absolutely. So then you can feel good about it.
Yeah. So popcorn as well, like you said, different sizes. There's like baby yellow corn, baby white corn. So there's different colors, there's different sizes. Indian corn, it can be, some of those are popcorn varieties. So you could get blue popcorn if you wanted.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah. So lots of varieties of all of these types of corn. So these are like overarching. Sweet corn is an overarching type, but there are many varieties within that.
Okay. So, but when we're driving down the road and we're looking at fields of corn, we're seeing
mostly the third type.
The third 99% of the corn that you see is this third type.
Okay.
So, and these are also going to be taller stalks as well. So, and this is what's left in the field. So if you see corn that is those dry golden colored stalks in the fall, 100% that's field corn.
Okay.
Everything else is harvested. That sweet corn is harvested when the stalks are still green.
Okay.
So this last one, like I talked about, the cob is red, so that's a really great way to tell. We also call this often dent corn because when it's harvested, all of the moisture leaves the cobs. Those kernels sink back in on themselves. There's a little dent in every single kernel.
I can see that.
And that is because once it's dried down like that, farmers can store it in their silos.
Wow.
And it won't go bad. You know, like sweet corn with all that moisture, it would mold, it would rot.
Sure.
And field corn will store well.
So they leave it out there to kind of dry itself out, so storage is better. Okay.
Yeah. And you know, in a wet year or something like that, if the corn has to come off the field and that moisture content is too high, there are methods that farmers can use to dry that down. You can put the kernels through big dryers.
Oh my!
There are some silos actually and some bins that have fans inside that can dry the corn right in the bins to make sure that that stores well. So. Yeah, I'll pass this one around too. That's the last one.
So what is corn like? Like what type of weather does corn like? Does it like a little bit of everything? A little bit of rain, a little bit of sunshine?
Yeah, good question. Weather is huge. And that's for all farming. Weather is huge. Corn likes hot, humid weather. It actually originally is kind of a tropical crop. So it does really well in climates in like South America. They grow corn. It does well there. It originally came from Mexico. And before it was ever these big stalks and these big cobs, it was actually a plant called teosinte, and it looked a little bit like a wheat plant. It had really small tops, and that through breeding and moving north and selective breeding of plants, we've been able to create this giant cob and many varieties. So in North Dakota, we grow different varieties than they do in South America, for example, or even in southern United States.
Sure. So here, Heidi gives us a very brief backstory on the history of corn as a whole. But the fact that a tropical crop has been engineered to survive in the frozen tundra, that's amazing. After listening to the first recording, it really made me appreciate all the science, technology, and innovation that has led corn to be the crop that, well, take it from Heidi.
It's grown more than any crop in the United States. It's the number 1 crop in the United States, and it's used in so many different ways. Actually, field corn is a fairly new crop to North Dakota. It's come here as we've been able to find varieties that can grow in our climate, which is a shorter growing season than you would find in the South.
Yeah.
And it's got much colder weather, of course. But at the same time, North Dakota farmers actually are able to grow corn with less issues with things like fungus and disease that would affect corn in other areas because we don't have such humid summers, such hot summers, and we get that freeze in the winter, which kills off a lot of things like disease and pests.
So it can be a positive.
So there are definitely some pros. Yes.
Nice.
That's true. So speaking of field corn, since we grow that like 99%, you said, is field corn, we can't just go out in the field and eat it. Mostly the things, like you said, we're eating sweet corn. So what are some of the main functions of field corn? What do we use it for?
Yeah, there are 4 main functions of field corn. And I like to say that they're kind of the F uses: food, feed, fiber, and fuel. That's a really easy way to remember.
I like that.
Feed, fiber, and fuel.
Yes.
Got it. 4 Fs. Like that.
Yeah, so we'll start at the beginning because you said, right, we don't eat field corn the way that we do sweet corn, but we do eat it. There are uses for field corn that are food. There are actually 4,000 items in a typical grocery store that contain corn.
Really?
Field corn. Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Like our grocery store?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So some of those are obvious, like cornmeal.
Sure.
Cornstarch.
Oh, and that's from field corn.
Those are field corn items.
love cornstarch. I mean, a good cornstarch
thickening.
flurry to like get my soups nice.
Yeah.
Oh, so that's field corn though.
Absolutely.
All
yeah.
right.
So some are obvious like that. There are others like corn flakes. Kicks. There are cereals that I always like to say the fun cereals. A lot of the fun ones that actually are corn. Corn oil, like a vegetable oil, that's field corn. Corn syrup. That's field corn. So used to sweeten things like candy, and
special K bars,
special K bars,
right?
And then there's less known ones as well. So like a typical diaper actually uses cornstarch as one of the absorbative agents.
Well, that makes sense.
Yeah. It's in toothpaste. Sorbitol is actually a corn item.
Really?
It can be in crayons. It's in a lot of makeup, like powders and things like that. Lipstick.
Interesting.
Yeah. So there are, like I said, like 4,000 items. I couldn't even begin to name them all.
Wow. I had no idea.
No. Things. You just think of like corn being food.
Right.
Yeah.
Like you think of it being food. So like the food things make sense. But like then you start talking about like diapers and toothpaste and makeup and like, and it kind of blows my mind, honestly.
Yeah.
Like the many uses and that goes to like the importance of North Dakota agriculture, right? Like we play an important role in just consumer industry. And if we didn't have corn, that'd be a big problem.
Yes.
And so is the corn we're growing going into those products?
So this a little tiny bit. Most of the corn in North Dakota is not used as food. So that corn is probably coming from somewhere else.
Okay.
Like we talked about varieties of corn, there are also corn that is specifically grown as a food product.
Okay.
Most of the corn grown in North Dakota is going into those other categories we talked about. So feed is a really big one. And feed is a huge component of what corn in North Dakota is used for livestock feed.
Okay. So do all like livestock?
So like your parents, are they feeding their hogs with corn?
They are.
Okay.
Yes. So pigs love it.
Okay.
It's a part of a lot of animal diets, a lot of livestock diets, poultry.
Okay.
So turkeys, chickens, they're eating corn. Cattle like corn. Horses, llamas even would eat corn.
Llamas like corn.
Most animals like corn. It's also, used for animals like deer. Like hunters to put out corn for their deer, right? There is corn in pet food. So it's actually, eaten
feeding
by dogs
our animals
and cats.
at home too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I also like to share there's a place in Minnesota that is raising shrimp. So they're kind of experimenting as well.
So farm-raised shrimp, right?
Yep,
Because there's no oceans that I know of in Minnesota. So then they're feeding them corn, the shrimp.
Yes, so they are feeding corn. And that's actually a product called DDGs.
Okay, and what does that stand for?
That stands for dried distiller's grains.
Okay.
And it is a byproduct. Actually, it's made at ethanol plants. So another use of corn that we talk about is fuel.
Okay.
And from a kernel of corn, you can get both. You get some ethanol out of it, and from what's left, you get some dry distiller grains, and that can be used as livestock feed.
Wow. So they're using the whole product.
The whole kernel.
Okay.
Yes.
Cool.
Yeah. So from a bushel of corn, which is about 56 pounds of corn, you can get about 2.8 gallons of fuel, which is ethanol, and about 17 pounds of DDGs.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing. And it sounds like people are constantly finding new ways to use corn, right? I mean, the shrimp farm, and that's amazing that they came up with the way to feed those little guys.
Yeah. And fuel, too.
Yeah.
So, like, okay, I have a lot of questions about that.
I do, too.
Okay, so, like, how is the field corn that we drive by, like, how is that, like, fueling my car?
Yeah. So I got another prop for you guys. I think this will
like
help.
props.
Yep. We're very visual.
So I have a giant corn kernel.
Holy man,
it's for our listeners. Yes. And this corn kernel opens up and it shows the inside of the corn. So there's like 3 main parts inside of every kernel.
Look at this.
And I'll pass that one to you. So the very inner part of the kernel is called the germ.
Okay.
And that's the part that would germinate. If you planted this kernel, that's also a seed. That's a corn seed. Okay. And this would turn into a corn plant. That's the part that would send roots and the plant.
And like be a little stalk, and then it grows up.
Baby plant.
Baby
corn plant.
Yep. Okay.
But if you don't plant this and you're going to use it for items, that germ can be pressed into corn oil.
Okay.
So the middle part is used for oil.
Right.
Okay. Or the germ.
This outer part, this next part is the corn starch. That's a starch of the plant. So that can be used for just cornstarch, straight up, right? Or cornmeal, animal feed. it can also be fermented into ethanol. So that's the part that,
so the starch gets fermented into ethanol.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that's the part that they're using at the plants. This outer hull that is actually the yellow part that people see, that's used as animal feed as well.
Wow.
Yeah. I suppose that would give it, like from a dietitian-y standpoint, like the starch is the energy.
Right, that makes sense.
And the outer side is like the fiber, right? For a good, healthy digestive tract for animals, I would guess.
Yes.
I don't know if it translates from humans to animals, but that's how I think about it.
So yeah, I guess, I'm not a scientist. They have those ethanol plants that are managing the plants and doing all that work. But I know that this starch is fermented. Ethanol is actually an alcohol. So it burns, like an alcohol does. And it's used as an additive in a lot of fuels. So 10% of a gallon of unleaded fuel is ethanol. And that takes place of a lot of these additives that maybe our consumers have heard about, like MTBE, which is kind of a dangerous one. It's been found in groundwater recently. So we're liking to go away from those and those additives that create a lot of emissions, tailpipe emissions. And ethanol is just much cleaner burning. So that's why we've gone toward using ethanol. Some fuel has more. So if a consumer sees unleaded 88 marketed in North Dakota, that's 15% ethanol.
Wow.
You can use that in your car. The Environmental Protection Agency has approved that for all vehicles 2001 and newer.
That's awesome.
So you can be using unleaded 88. It's also higher octane. That 88, it means higher octane than unleaded 87. So it's great for your engine.
Oh, good.
And it's a little cheaper.
It is cheaper. That's why
good for your environment.
Like
I mean, win-win, right?
There's really, I don't think there's any no losses to using ethanol. Good for your environment, good for the car. Good for the economy. It's helping out our farmers.
Yes.
And it's good for your wallet.
That's cool.
Well, because we're growing the corn here, and then we also have quite a few ethanol plants, correct?
Absolutely, yeah. So there's 5 ethanol plants in North Dakota. About 50% of the corn grown in North Dakota is used to make ethanol.
Wow.
Yes.
So between that and the feed for livestock, that's where a majority of our corn's going?
Yes. Yeah, a big majority. And then those items to ethanol, animal feed, if it's not being used in North Dakota, we ship a lot of it to other countries. So we're exporting through the PNW. By rail. It leaves North Dakota and goes to the PNW for exporting around the world.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
That is amazing.
Yes. And it's billions of dollars worth of product leaving the state.
So that was a good visual and like a good representation.
It's like a little baby. Like it's nice size.
Yep. And it has those 3 different parts spelled out. So you talked a lot about like the food, the fuel, and the feed. What about fiber?
Yeah, fiber.
Like,
what's the fiber
I think of
about?
it like as dietary. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Like,
so
I
fiber,
think dietary fiber.
Corn fiber that we're talking about is like material fiber.
Oh,
yeah. So
that makes sense.
One more prop I've got for you guys.
Okay.
This just is a little guy that shows corn starting as a kernel. It goes through all these processes. There are engineers and scientists who work on this as well.
That's cool.
And they split out all these items like the corn starch, and dextrose, and the lactic acids. And they get to this item at the end.
Looks stringy.
This one is it's an NGO fiber filament in this example. And then that can be made into things like corn carpet. It can be corn fiber, could be corn plastics. So like those biodegradable or compostable takeout containers, or plastic silverware that's made from corn.
Wow.
It can also be made into like tires.
Really?
Corn tires. Yeah.
So you not only like have fuel for your car, you also have the tires made of corn. That's awesome.
Who knew corn could be so durable? I can't believe it.
I know, and the fibers are reminding me of like the little strings that my daughter used to make bracelets the other day. They have like little strings, to string beads on, and that's actually what it looks like.
Yeah, it's a similar to that as well. But yeah, so this is really exciting. And we also talk about research, right? North Dakota Corn Council is doing a lot of work in the research space. We work with our North Dakota universities, like the University of North Dakota, North Dakota State University. And they're doing a lot of exciting research with like fibers and corn in new uses, like making road dust suppressant, latex paints and sealants. There was a project we did a few years back that was kind of exciting. It was to make the adhesive that like presses together particle board and plywood out of corn, which is just better for the environment.
How did that work out?
It worked well. Yeah, nice. It has a similar strength to what we're used to. So those are projects that can find real world use. And not only are they using more corn for our farmers and helping out them, but it's doing something for the consumers as well. It's better for the environment,
Yeah, so we can feel good about it.
It's so amazing. There's nothing corn can't do, is what you're telling us.
It's kind of an amazing thing.
It really does it all.
Right? I would have never guessed. Would you?
No. The fiber thing, like that's blowing my mind.
Right?
Yeah, all of it.
Yeah, it is really. And we like to say that corn is king. So,
do you know, and this is just random facts that now I'm asking, how many corn farmers are there in North Dakota? Do you have any stats for us on that?
Yeah. So there's about 6,000 farms in North Dakota that are growing corn.
Okay.
And there are about 13,000 farmers because a lot of these farms are family farms. So there's more than one farmer on a farm.
And is that a number that increases each year, or has it kind of stayed the same?
For us, it stayed pretty standard. Yeah, it stayed about the same. About 98% of farms are family-owned farms.
That's cool.
Yeah, and that's a statistic that has stayed.
Wow, that's high. 98%.
That is. Yes. So it gets passed down from generation to generation, and hopefully that's able to continue. Right.
Stay in the family.
Yeah. I think farmers really they find pride in that, right? They're farming with their families. It's generational. If you're going to be a farmer, a lot of times you've learned from other farmers in your life and you've been mentored by other farmers and you come up in that industry. And it's something that is kind of a legacy to be a farmer.
And I was curious to that, if there was kind of this competitive thing between farmers, or from what you just said, you kind of share information. You find them helping each other out.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're in this really tight-knit community where you've probably been, your family has been for a very long time, and you've been farming next to your neighbors, and you know all your neighbors for a very long time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really cool. Corn is king.
Corn is king. I think we're about ready for a little game, don't you think? To test our knowledge.
Let's go. The stakes are high.
Okay. So, I see something off to my left that I'm going to bring on camera.
Don't get too attached to it, Jen.
Oh, we'll see about that. So, since you said corn is king, I mean, we have a trophy with a corn cob.
Right? We like a theme around here.
We're going to test our knowledge. Now, I've had a couple cups of coffee, so I think that's positive for my brain fuel. But Heidi, we want you to quiz us. So
ask us some corn questions.
And whoever gets the most right will get to own this beautiful
I already know where I want to put it in my house.
Oh, yes. I'm sure you do.
Okay. How many questions would you like?
We want you to ask us 3 questions. And we're going to write the answers. And all of mine will be right, so go ahead whenever you're ready.
So we'll start with an easy one.
Okay.
What are the 3 types of corn grown in North Dakota?
3 types. Okay. How long do we have here?
Should we sing like that?
Okay. Here's what I have.
Okay.
Oh, see.
Oh, yeah.
I had sweet corn, popcorn, and commodity corn. Does that count?
Okay.
I have field corn, sweet corn, and popcorn.
Okay, yeah. I'm gonna give this one to you. Field corn, sweet corn, popcorn.
Shoot. Mark 1.
Yeah. Jen. So commodity, I would say, these are all commodities.
Oh, so that could have been. Oh.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Just
okay. Give me question number 2.
Okay.
Give me question number 2.
Still fair game.
Question number 2. How many pounds is in a bushel of field corn?
Oh, math.
Did we talk about this?
We talked about math.
We did. I did mention.
You said this? How many pounds? It's like I'm thinking of it as that song, bushel and a peck, but that has nothing to do with this, right?
Well, I mean,
how many pounds are in a bushel?
How many pounds are in
Okay, I'm just going to throw it on guess.
We talked about 1 bushel of corn.
I'm just going to say this. I don't know.
2.8.
Oh, gosh. Oh, my.
28 pounds.
What is it?
So we talked about, right, how 1 bushel of corn makes 2.8 gallons of ethanol,
Okay.
17 pounds of DDGs.
Slow down, Heidi.
Okay.
But it's 56 pounds
56.
of corn.
We were way off. So 0 points for us. Okay.
But now we know.
Final question.
Now we know.
So this last one we did not talk about. But,
Oh, boy.
but you got your props, I
Okay.
think, to help you out.
Okay.
How many kernels of corn on average is on 1 cob of field corn?
Heather, do you want a corn cob to estimate?
Okay, I'm just going to go with it.
Oh, kernels are in a. Now, are we talking the little one, or just are they all the same?
Field corn. On field corn. Yep.
Okay, so the dent corn.
The dent corn.
I really want to count a row and then see how many rows, but I'm not going to do that.
It, like,
I'm just going to say...
math. Okay, here's my answer. Again.
Very different. Okay, what are we playing by, like, the Price is Right rules?
Like,
Sure.
who's closest?
Yeah.
Okay, so
I don't know. I have 400.
400 is closest. Yes. Yeah. the average cob of corn has about 800 kernels.
Oh, I was
Yeah.
thinking of a really big field corn.
And
you
it's
know?
often in 16 rows. It's like an even number of rows, which is an interesting
kidding.
fact.
Do they
about
do that on
corn.
purpose?
Fun facts.
I don't know how that ended up like that. No,
16
but
different rows. That's average. So if we counted around here,
Yeah, that's
it would
what-
be 16 rows
on average. Yeah.
Wow.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
800 kernels.
Yeah. So
That's
it's
a lot
super
of kernels.
interesting about corn is it's like I said, 16 rows on average, 800
Okay.
kernels.
Okay.
And when you see, right, like the silks on a cob
Yeah.
of corn,
Yes.
which is similar to sweet corn. If you pick corn on the cob, it has those silks on the top.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's the same as field corn. One of those silks is connected to every single kernel.
What?
Really?
Yeah, that's like the female part of the flower. The tassels on the top
Yeah.
in the summer when you see the corn
Yeah.
tasseling, that's the male part of the stalk. So when the
Okay.
wind blows, those tassels lose their pollen. They fall down onto the silks. And that's how every single kernel has to be pollinated.
wow.
If you ever get a cob of corn with a like a empty spot on it,
Yeah.
that's because those tassels did not
It
get
didn't
any
hit
pollen.
it. Okay. Interesting.
Yeah, so that is a plant that
Wow.
actually is pollinating itself. It doesn't need
Okay.
honeybees, for
Sure.
example.
Okay.
It's just the wind.
I was just going to ask,
Yeah.
like, do you need other things to help with this process? But the environment basically
It's
helps
doing
with
it,
it.
yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, so
That's
if you've
so cool.
ever heard, sometimes people talk about having those summer jobs where they have to go out and detassel corn. That's in these research environments where they're talking about breeding new varieties of corn, and they don't just want the pollen blowing around and pollinating willy-nilly.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So they have
gotta
to go out
control
and
it.
cut those tassels off.
So it doesn't
that
happen.
they can individually pollinate and try their new varieties
Holy
in a
man.
controlled environment.
Sounds
Yeah.
intense.
Yeah.
Interesting.
That
Well, I
sounds
have
intense.
a lot more to learn about corn.
Yes, but I mean, clearly
We're getting somewhere.
I mean,
We're getting
we
somewhere.
are.
So we
We
have
are.
the basics now.
Yeah.
We've got, the 3 varieties of corn.
Yeah.
Yes. So, and like I said, in North Dakota, we focus on field corn because that's 99% of what we're growing in North
Okay.
Dakota. Yeah. And it's something that affects so many other things. So in addition, right, to being food for livestock,
Yeah.
it's all of those things in the grocery store. It's our fuel. It's that huge impact on our economy. It's even affecting, like you wouldn't have eggs in the grocery store if you didn't have corn to feed your chickens.
Right.
Right.
It's all
You
connected.
didn't have milk and butter if you weren't able to feed your dairy cattle. So everything
Yes.
is so connected in
Right.
that way.
And I feel like that's true of all North Dakota agriculture, don't you?
Absolutely. Yeah. Everything is so interconnected.
Yeah.
Yeah. We talk about too, most of our corn farmers, for example, are soybean farmers or they're
Oh,
wheat
yeah.
farmers. There's a lot of diversity
it's
in
not
North
just
Dakota.
one crop mostly.
Right. Yeah. There's a lot of diversity. And these corn farmers, in an effort to be more efficient and be kinder to the planet, they're finding all of these new techniques all the time. Something farmers have been doing for a very long time is crop rotation.
Okay.
So in a field where you might have field corn this year, next year it might be soybeans.
Okay.
And that's helping with soil health? Is that the reason?
Yeah. So soil health is part of it. these crops need inputs, so fertilizers and things like that.
Okay.
And one of the main things that corn needs is nitrogen.
Yeah.
And some of those fertilizers you can put nitrogen on, an artificial fertilizer, but it's better for the environment. It's better for a farmer in his bottom line if he can utilize the nitrogen that's already in the soil.
Okay.
And soybean is a plant that actually fixes nitrogen. So when you harvest it leaves behind nitrogen.
So one year they'll do corn, the next year they'll do soybeans.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
They help each other out.
They're helping each other out.
Just like you and I.
Yes,
we help each other out.
Yeah. It's also a really great way to minimize things like pesticides, because if you are rotating, then you're kind of disrupting a cycle of maybe a pest that really likes corn, but it doesn't like soybeans. Or a disease that might like corn and might really proliferate if you're planting corn after corn after corn. But if you plant soybeans or another crop, it's disrupting that cycle.
Oh, smart.
Yeah. So a really great way to be more efficient, better for the environment if we don't have to use things like pesticides as much. So, and farmers have all of this knowledge. They're studying all the time. They're going back to school and getting continuing education credits. But they also have help from people like universities and extension agents and crop advisors and things like that.
You need to know a lot to be a farmer.
There's a lot of behind the scenes.
You need chemistry. You need math. You need meteorology.
Right.
Education. So, and resourceful. You have to be resourceful. Thinking about what kinds of varieties are out there and reaching out for that, or how do I sell my product?
Right.
Is that something we didn't really talk about that
how
at
do they
all.
did they get to decide what happens to their corn?
Yes. So there are a variety of different ways to use your corn. Obviously, my dad in his farm, he feeds it. So he's not selling his corn. He grows what he needs to feed his pigs, and then he sells the pork at the end. But for somebody who doesn't have a livestock component maybe to their farm, they're marketing that crop. And you can think of it almost a little bit like a stock market. You're trading commodity and selling and buying. And
so they're seeing what's high,
corn.
What's low, and that
goodness.
will make them decide where they want to sell that year.
Yeah. So just like somebody might be looking to see what the orange juice prices are, that's like a commodity trade.
Okay.
There's a daily report on what the corn prices are that day. So
you gotta pay attention to a lot of stuff.
And so
the weather, the markets,
all of it. And can you wait until harvest day, or do you kind of have to say where your corn's going before you start harvesting?
There are a variety of ways to do it. So some farmers are locking in prices before they harvest. And that could be maybe a way to take away some of the anxieties of what if the market drops? Well, I already have my price locked in.
Sure.
So some farmers do it that way. Some do maybe half that way, and they leave half to market.
Wow.
And to watch the markets and sell.
It's a bit of a betting game.
Yeah, that might be stressful.
I
so
would
you have
think
to rely on your faith and belief and know that it's going to be fine, right? And risk taking. I mean, it's sometimes risky as being a farmer, I would imagine, because we can't.
Well, especially with the weather too.
Yeah, we
you
can't
have these
control that.
unpredictable things that you can't control.
You can, yes. Yeah. If agriculture in general just relies so much on the weather, and it can change like that. Last year, for example, my dad had probably the best crop he has ever had.
Yeah.
In 2021, he had a corn harvest. Bushels were like 250 bushels per acre.
Okay.
So again, how many bushels? How many pounds in a bushel?
6. Oh man, retention.
Okay,
shouldn't have
write
that.
it on your.
I know. I should have cheated and wrote a little note, but I didn't.
So 56 pounds.
56.
Yeah.
56.
And an acre is about the size of a football field.
Okay.
So I can't do that math, but 250 times 56, that's how many pounds per football field.
Okay.
that
Wow.
he's getting.
That's a lot of pounds.
And in North Dakota, maybe 4 hours away or even closer, probably some farmers in Minnesota were in a drought. And they didn't have the perfect rains like he happened to have last year. Our farmers in North Dakota were getting like 80 bushels an acre.
Oh, wow.
And he had what?
He had about 250.
Wow.
That's wild.
Yeah.
Quite
so
extreme.
Everything else very similar. The soil types are not too much different. He was growing similar varieties and length of corn. Some corn takes 87 days to mature. Some varieties take 120 if you're growing in the further southern states.
Okay.
But everything was about similar for him to these farmers in North Dakota. It was just the weather that made that difference.
Wow.
Yeah, those timely rains are so important.
Yes.
Yeah. So I think we have some questions now from
some
maybe a viewer.
Viewer questions.
So.
Okay, what do we got?
Oh, I have some. Hold on. Okay. So the first question is, what is the official technique for eating corn on the cob? Typewriter method, rotation, the latch method. You just latch
do you need the guys on the side?
The corn holders?
Yeah, are those necessary?
Because it's hot, right? Or
Good
like
question.
if your kid's like, hey, can you cut it off the cob for me? And you're the mom. Have you experienced this, Heather? I'm sure. Like you're holding it and you're like,
I'm glad we have an expert here.
I know.
Answer
like,
this.
how do we do this properly?
I feel like that is really depending on every individual preference.
I suppose. So there's no right way.
No, I wouldn't say so.
Okay.
I like to eat at typewriter, if that makes a difference.
Yep.
I feel like it's effective.
I had a dog once
every
that
little
he liked to
kernel.
eat at typewriter.
Oh, really?
That's interesting.
Yes, I've seen some dogs. They'll hold
like
it in
they're
their paws.
very exact and precise.
How do you like to
that's
eat your
funny.
corn on the cob?
Well, now that I think about it, I'm a typewriter style. And then I'll just, little rotation.
Yep.
Because you're getting every single kernel.
Yes.
I don't want those holders. I don't need them.
You get in
they
there
get
and
water
Sometimes
dripping
they
on
like
your
drop
arms.
and you can't put
No,
them in.
I don't want those.
No.
And guess what else? I don't use butter. I just go straight up.
You're kidding.
Yes.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm eating it like out of the field, like testing it, right? Then I'm fine with it. But I do like a good like spray butter.
Yeah.
A little bit of salt. That's the one thing that I salt.
Corn on the cob for me really is just a carrier for butter and salt.
Oh yeah. Most
That's
people.
what I'm in it for.
Yeah,
Yes.
most people. Okay. So next question. Corn is great. So why is candy corn so dang awful?
Controversial.
Like
Wow,
Controversial.
that is controversial. I am a candy corn fan myself.
Okay.
But candy corn is, that's pretty much solid sugar, right?
Sure.
Is it made from corn syrup?
There is probably corn syrup, in corn.
Okay.
Candy corn.
There should be if there isn't.
I mean, they
It
should
makes
use
sense,
it.
right?
Yeah, they should.
Yeah.
If
yeah.
they're calling it corn,
It's
it has to have
also,
something
like
with corn
in
it.
marshmallows. Fun fact. So
Oh, that makes
I feel
sense.
like,
'cause of the
marshmallow and candy
texture,
corn is
right?
very similar.
Oh,
If you think about it.
yeah.
Kind of similar
Huh, okay.
taste
All
and
right.
texture.
All
Okay,
right.
so next question. What machines harvest sweet corn? Are there differences
Oh,
like
good
between
question.
like how you harvest like a field corn versus a popcorn versus a sweet corn?
Great question. There are combines. Combines are harvesting most of these commodities.
Okay. Yep.
And that's only going to differ like the type of header often. So soybeans will use a different type of header, the front,
Okay. The front
in order to
piece
get
that
it into the combine.
kind of cuts
versus corn.
It cuts it off
Okay.
the stalk, right? A combine would.
Right.
So then
Yeah.
you just switch that header out for
Yeah.
each crop you're doing.
Yeah, so
Okay.
most farmers, they can just trade the headers. They use the same combine
Okay.
for their soybean or their corn crop. They just change those headers.
Okay.
Some crops, though, like a food grade crop, food grade beans, food grade corn, like sweet corn,
Yeah.
or canning corn, they'll have to have kind of a special combine that's not different in its build,
Okay.
but it needs to be cleaned and
Okay, sanitized.
Yep.
All
It
right.
just needs to be maintained a
Okay.
little bit differently because it's
Food
going to be
grade.
used for food.
It's kind of
That
like
makes
our
sense.
professions. Like you
It's
have
like
to
a
have like a
kitchen.
commercial
Right.
kitchen to prepare food for the public. Like that's how I translate that.
Right.
That
So the
makes
same
sense.
with like your sweet corn farmers. They need their special combine and they need to sanitize it properly. and
Exactly.
clean it. Okay, that
Exactly.
makes sense.
So something interesting, also another little aspect of agriculture is there are custom harvesters. So
That sounds expensive.
if a farmer,
I know. It's
yeah,
like custom
Custom.
clothing, custom
Custom.
furniture.
if a farmer doesn't maybe have a ton of sweet corn,
Okay.
and like in North Dakota, they're not going to have, but in Minnesota, for example, they're close to those companies like Green Giant.
Oh, so they
who
supply to
might
them.
have some local farmers
Okay.
raising sweet corn for canned corns. They might not find it, efficient to keep a separate combine or to go through all the work of cleaning that combine in order to harvest their food grade.
Okay.
So there are companies out there who just go around and harvest sweet corn.
Oh, wow.
And that's
Okay.
a custom harvest company. So
Sure.
they'll come in, they'll harvest your sweet corn fields in like a day, and then
Wow.
they'll move on to someone else's.
So they can just concentrate on growing it, and then they'll have someone else come in and
Exactly.
All right.
Yeah.
That's kind of cool.
And that's because those windows are so small, right? When it's ready, it's ready.
You got
but
to
if they need to spend 2 days cleaning and getting the combine ready to go,
Right.
you know, they're losing time and they're losing money off their bottom line. So we have a custom harvester come in and take care of it.
I'm sure they have other crops too. So like sometimes they're done at the same time. And how do you prioritize, right?
Yeah. And we talked about risk, right? It's risky to be a farmer. So part of managing that risk would be to diversify. If a farmer has only corn, only field corn, and it's a bad year,
you're in trouble.
You have a bad year.
Trouble.
Right.
Yeah. But another crop might be doing okay. Like maybe they have some wheat and they've got some soybeans and they have a little bit of sugar beets, and those crops do a little better that year.
Okay.
So, and maybe it's livestock. Maybe a farmer also has hogs or cattle. So just a way to diversify.
Kind of
a little
spread
bit.
it around.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah. Those are great questions.
Yes. I liked the candy corn one.
Me too. I didn't even think of that. Now I'm going to look at labels, you know, do the dietitian-y thing. So we have a final question.
Yes, a final question.
So what's your favorite part of being a part of North Dakota agriculture community?
Oh, great question. I would say one of my favorite parts about being a part of the agricultural community in general is that it's an industry that is always on the forefront. You know, they're always in the next exciting big thing. They're pushing the envelope when it comes to efficiency and taking care of the environment. I'm a millennial. I have, you know, these eco anxieties, and I'm eco conscious. So I'm happy to be a part of a industry that I feel like can be part of the solution.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And something exciting I feel like about North Dakota agriculture, we talked about the diversity in North Dakota.
Yeah.
It's one of the most diverse states.
Right.
You know, you're going to be talking to other people, right? In North Dakota commodities, they're number one in like 11 different things.
What?
You know,
That's pretty crazy.
Sunflowers,
We're just
honey,
awesome. High five, North Dakota.
Yes, 11 different industries.
And being in communications, I feel like part of my exciting job is to get to tell those stories of farmers and to make new connections. And there's always something new, and it's such a diverse state. So I really enjoy that part.
I love that. It's something to be proud of, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, that's so cool.
Well, we were so excited to have you as our first guest on our podcast.
Thank you for teaching us.
And we'll write that number down. What was it? 56.
56.
Yes,
56.
you got it.
Yes,
56 bushels.
Yes. Okay, we got it.
Excellent.
We got it.
Yes. Thank you so much, Heidi.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Let me know if you ever have more corny questions.
I'm sure we will. I am sure we will.
We'll keep them coming.
Yeah. So we're excited for more episodes.
Yes. Stay
coming
tuned
up.
for the next one.
Again, we have lots of questions. Right, Heather?
So many questions.
I mean, so many questions. So we could do this all day. But
we
won't keep Heidi here any longer. So make sure to tune in via social media, anywhere you see podcasts, for our upcoming episodes, where you just never know what we're going to do. And I'm going to write my name on the trophy.
Oh, goodness. And it's erasable, right?
I guess.
Okay. Until next time.
Thanks for tuning in to the Common Ground North Dakota podcast. Make sure to follow us on social media and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Most importantly, send us your questions about North Dakota agriculture by visiting our website. You might win a prize. We'll see you in the next episode of the Common Ground North Dakota podcast.